Hey guys, welcome back to the Free Drop podcast and our recap of the first day's play at the SA Premier IPT at Silver Lakes Golf Club. A bit of a tricky day for the defending champions Western Province, who succumbed to an 8.5, 3.5 defeat to the hosts Gauteng North, who had recently gained promotion to the A section in 2024. Yeah, a bit of a tough start. In the morning, they lost the foursomes 3-1, though one of the bright spots certainly was the victory which Daniel Koopman and Sean LaRue of Westlake Golf Club managed to secure. And it was the first game out, and it provided some sort of consolation for Andrew Giorgio, Werner Tiart, and the rest of the guys, as they then had something to take into the afternoon session. What was pretty surprising as a fan of Western Province was seeing that Andries van der Vyver and Henry Walters, who went undefeated in the 2024 edition at Stellenbosch Golf Club, struggled a little bit and ultimately lost their game, which, I mean, losses obviously happen, especially in foursomes, and, it was unfortunate, but it certainly speaks to the character of Andries that he managed to put it behind him very quickly and get back in the mix in the afternoon and salvage a point for Province. It's a tricky one to look back on and think, how much of a difference does home course advantage make, and how much of a factor did the weather play in the lead up to the opening day's play. It had been a bit muddy about, and obviously, that could well have played a role. I presume lift, clean, and place was in play, but nevertheless, it's not ideal conditions necessarily. But there's plenty to be hopeful about as we head into the rest of the week. One match is certainly not the end of the world, and this team have proven they've got such remarkable fight that there's there brighter things to come for sure. And it was interesting to note that in the 2024 edition, someone who certainly sort of put his hand up as a player with a remarkable match play mentality was Daniel Koopman, and the man put his hand up again in 2025 on day one with a phenomenal 7-6 win in the afternoon singles, which really was the bright spot of the day for Werner Tiart as the manager, I'm sure, and the rest of the team. Although they struggled in the afternoon, there was also another half point managed by his foursomes partner Sean LaRue, which again kept the scoreboard ticking. And as mentioned earlier, Andries van der Vyver also managed to pick up a point of his own, which leaves Province in an interesting position, and one which they aren't necessarily accustomed to as a group. They went unbeaten in the 2024 edition and now face a slightly different prospect heading into the rest of the week. But they certainly are able to bounce back. if we take a look at who they are playing in the next round of fixtures, let's take a look here and see. I really, really am hoping to get Daniel Koopman on the call, because he must be incredibly stoked with his fantastic play in the on the opening day, and fingers crossed we get him on, because it'll be fantastic to get his insight and just find out what worked so well for him and Sean. And let's have a look here. If we take a look at the leaderboard, I think it certainly illustrates from day one that match play is a fickle mistress, particularly when you are not necessarily playing your own ball, and you just need to take a quick glance at the results from the morning to illustrate that. So Mitch Vigeland and Cole Cruikshank, also a fantastic combination from 2024, and certainly a fantastic combination in 2025. Their games match up hell of a well, and they unfortunately lost 3-2, but all to play for in the coming 4 days. Andrew Giorgio and his partner Chris Stradom. Chris Stradom is a newcomer to the side, replacing Travis Proctor, who is incidentally at Q School this week. They had the pleasure of playing Andrew Kerr-Lewis and Roelof Craig, which is quite an interesting pairing, because Roelof Craig is a fantastic young prospect in South African amateur golf, under 19 player, and the medalist at the SA under 19 stroke play last week. And he was partnering Andrew Kerr-Lewis, who's won 3 times on the Sunshine Tour. So a wealth of youth and experience in that pairing. And, it must have been fantastic for Roelof to be able to lean on someone like Andrew, who no doubt has a ton of experience in not just pressure situations, but match play situations as well. I'm not quite sure what his IPT record is or how many IPTs he's played, but no doubt before turning pro, he must have played in a good few. And it must be fun to be able to lean on that, on a person like that. So to Chris Stradom, obviously not the same age as Roelof Craig, but someone who could lean on a former pro in Andrew Giorgio. It must have been, again, a fun learning curve for Chris, but at the same time, it must have been tricky to come into a side that is very, very settled in many regards. 7 of the 8 players that won in 2024 in the 2025 side. The only change, as mentioned, is the change of Travis Proctor playing Q School and Chris Stradom coming in for him. So, I mean, when you stand on the tee box and you playing a 3-time Sunshine Tour winner, not necessarily a fun prospect, but yeah, it would be great to find out what Chris made of that experience and how he will carry the lessons learned from that into the remaining few games this week. Hopefully Werner Tiart and the team can get together and have a good chat. Werner, I've come to realize, is not one to get overly flustered in the face of adversity. He was cool, calm, and collected the whole way through a number of stressful situations during their winning campaign in 2024, and no doubt will have a good chat with the guys, maybe mix up the order in which they head out on day 2, and yeah, hopefully it bodes well for their remaining fixtures. I think at the same time, it also we've got to tip our caps to Gauteng North, and it really speaks to the strength of South African amateur golf in general. That a team that has only just gained promotion to the Premier IPT A section has been able to upset the defending champions, and yeah, it's what makes golf such a great game. And I think you just need to look at the presence of guys like Roelof Craig and Andries van der Veer and Henry Walters, who are all very, very young guys and fantastic talents, to understand just how bright the future of South African golf is. And I have no doubt that these are names that we'll be seeing on IPT team sheets for many, many years to come. And yeah, it'll be fun to look back in 15, 20 years' time and look at these pairings we see at the moment, such as Andries and Henry, and think, yo, they were a juggernaut pairing within the Western Province Golf and within the IPT fabric as a whole. It will be cool to see how they deal with the loss from today and how they look to regroup heading into the remaining days. I get the impression with them though that they just they smile and shrug it off and bounce back without giving it much of a second thought or placing too much weight on any one result, win or lose. I think their mentality is very much one to where you deal with what's in front of you, and yeah, they're certainly an exciting group to follow in the remaining parts of the week. So let's take a look at who Western Province are playing in the remaining fixtures. So Tuesday, day 2, doesn't get any easier. They've got Southern Cape. And in 2024, although they won the IPT ultimately, Southern Cape was their banana skin in the most recent IPT, and they will be looking to avenge what was a difficult defeat to take, and no doubt they will be incredibly motivated to bounce back. But again, it doesn't get any easier from there either. Central Gauteng, who, although they may have struggled in recent years at IPT level, are always a force to be reckoned with in team golf. They've got them in on the third day's play before, again, another tricky assignment against Eastern Province. And finally, They then finish up their week with a clash against Northwest, who some of you may remember they just snuck past on the first day's play in 2024, and overcoming that very difficult assignment really allowed them to free themselves up to play better golf in the remaining days, and that very narrow victory they managed to secure truly set them up for what was ultimately a winning campaign. I really hope you stay tuned for the recaps to come, because there is so much good golf still to be played, and I've no doubt that Province will put this defeat behind them very quickly and bounce back as they look to make a successful title defense.